Good afternoon, students. In today's lecture of G203, that is Principles of Plant Biotechnology, we are going to learn about somaclonal variations, which is the topic number 5 in our theory syllabus. So, to start with, the term somaclonal variation was first used by scientists Larkin and Scowcroft in 1981 to describe the induced changes in plants which are regenerated from in vitro cultured somatic tissues. That is, these are the variations which occurs in tissue culture plants. Currently, the term somaclonal variation is generally used to describe all the variations which arise from tissue culture. However, other alternative terms such as protoclonal or gametoclonal variations describing the variations from protoplast and anther culture respectively are also used in some cases. So let us know about some basic features of somaclonal variations. Generally, when we say variation, it is generally a change. So it could be a change in karyotype or isoenzyme characteristics or morphology in soma clones. So in layman's language, soma clones are nothing but tissue culture raised plants. Why they are called as soma clones? Because they are the clones of somatic plant body cell. That's why the name implies as a soma clones. Now these variants are selected in tissue culture and they are referred as cali clone if the clones or tissue culture plants are raised from a callus tissue. They can be called as mericlone if they are the clones which are prepared from meristem tissue. They are called as protoclones if they are the clones which are raised from protoplasts. So generally, heritable mutations persist in plant population even after plantation into the field. So these variations, sometimes they could be heritable, sometimes they could be inheritable. Generally, heritable mutations will persist throughout the generations even after they are planted into the field. Now, what are the reasons these somaclonal variations that they will occur in tissue culture? So there are different types of reasons are there. Sometimes in the tissue culture process, when explant preparation, that is, while we prepare the explant for initiation or inoculation, wounding can happen during the sterilization process. That could also lead for changes to occur in the tissue culture plant. Sometimes there could be some media components which are responsible for creation of somaclonal variations, that is some plant growth regulators and salts which could be added in extra amount or in a very low amount, that could lead the changes in the DNA or nucleus in the cells, growing cells. Third reason is in vitro culture environment. In tissue culture, we generally grow the plants in physical environment, uh, which were these conditions are generally controlled, like temperature, light, humidity. All these conditions, physical conditions, were maintained in the tissue culture. But sometimes, if there is some changes in the temperature or light, if due to some manual error, if we give more than required temperature, more than required light or humidity, then the plants will acclimatize to these physical conditions, creating certain changes in their DNA. Okay, all these explant preparation, chemical treatment of the explants or media components or in vitro culture conditions, all they create oxidative stress on your plant. And this oxidative stress will generate free radicals, oxygen, reactive oxygen species, superoxide molecules or H2O2, hydrogen peroxide, hydroxyl peroxyl or alkoxyl kind of molecules in the cell. And these are generally free radicals have detrimental effect or they have damaging effect on a DNA or nucleic acid within the cell. So they can cause hyper or hypomethylation of DNA. It can cause changes in the chromosome number also. Chromosome rearrangements could take place in the cells, or that could lead DNA based deletion, addition or substitution kind of mutations. So all these mutation under in vitro environment causes soma clonal variations to appear in tissue culture plants. So in more detail, we will learn about what are the different causes for soma clonal variations. So first of all, mechanism of soma clonal variations. It is of two kinds. First is genetic, that is heritable variations which can inherit from generation to generation. These are the pre-existing variations in the somatic cells of explant. So whenever we collect the explant from particular parent plant, that parent plant originally have some pre-existing variations within its cell. So these variations are generally caused by mutations and other DNA changes that occur naturally, and they occur at very high frequency in the nature. But being originally found in the donor plant, they are generally heritable variations or genetic variations. Now second kind of variations are epigenetic or non-heritable variations. These are the variations which are generated during the tissue culture process and caused by temporary phenotypic changes. In tissue culture, we generally provide everything prepared to the plant, that is food, then all the conditions, light, humidity, temperature, everything we provide artificially. So there is chance that because of these physiological changes, there would be a temporary phenotypic change that will occur in the tissue culture plants. There is no significance in the sexually propagated plant. Means whatever plants we grow generally by crossing or in nature on a field, they generally contains the genetic variations, while in tissue culture we grow the plants asexually. That's why non-heritable kind of mutations can occur. These mutations occur at very low frequency. So these are the two types of variations that are there in the tissue culture or generally found in the plants. One is genetic and another is epigenetic. Now there are three different causes of soma clonal variations are there: physiological cause, genetic cause, and biochemical cause. So in physiological cause, generally the physiological conditions of culturing are involved, like exposure of culture to plant growth regulators, then culture conditions of temperature, then light and humidity. So all they exist, and because of their these conditions, if they are provided in extra or in a very less amount, then they can cause the temporary mutations to occur in tissue culture grown plants. In second type of cause, that is genetic cause, generally it is the change in chromosome number. It occurs due to change in the chromosome number, change in the chromosome structure also. When we say change in chromosome number, that means it could be a aneuploidy, polyploidy, translocation or inversion kind of condition in the genome. So when we say aneuploidy, it's a gain or loss of one or more number of chromosomes in the nuclei. Okay, when in total number of chromosome number, if there is addition of one chromosome or loss of one chromosome or more than one chromosome from the total number of chromosome present within the cell, then that kind of mutation is called as aneuploidy mutation. Then second kind of mutation is polyploidy. Poly means many. It is the gain or loss of an entire genome. In this case, what happens? Either entire genome could be gained from, it could be doubled, or there would be a loss of entire genome from the plant cell. It is called as polyploidy. Then there is a translocation where the arms of chromosomes are switched. Okay, that means there would be an exchange of short stretches of chromosome from one arm of chromosome to another arm of chromosome. That means they get translocated from one position to another position. Then the fourth kind of mutation is inversion, where the piece of chromosome gets inverted. That means its alignment gets changed, it becomes inverted. Its position gets inverted. So all these are the changes in chromosome number that leads the formation of somaclonal variations within tissue culture plants. Then second is change in the chromosome structure. In this kind of mutation, there would be a deletion, that means loss of certain genes from the entire genome. There could be inversions, alteration in the gene order. That means the small fragment from the chromosome could get deleted, and it is not deleted, actually it gets inverted. Its position becomes inverted within the chromosome. Then duplication, where the sum of few genes gets duplicated in the chromosome. There would be a repetition of these genes within the chromosome. And translocation, segments of chromosomes moving to new locations during the recombination process, from one arm of chromosome to another arm of chromosome. So all these are the genetic causes. Then third cause is gene mutation, in which transition, transversion, insertion or deletion can occur within the chromosome. Plasma gene mutations can also occur, and there are certain elements which are responsible for transposition, which are called as transposable element activation. Certain genes within the chromosomes get activated due to other genes, supporting genes, and they causes the translocation of one gene from one arm of a chromosome to another arm, or just the changing of position of these genes from the chromosome arms. So this is the normal chromosome component, where chromosome number 1, 2 or 3 have been given in a normal cell, plant cell, which is a diploid cell, normal plant cell. In monoploid, generally it has the single set of chromosome, only single set of homozygous chromosomes. In diploid, there are 2 chromosomes are there, and both are homozygous to each other. In polyploidy, what happens? There is an extra pair of extra chromosome gets added in the diploid chromosome number. In tetraploid, again one more. So this is a polyploidy. More than the normal number of sets of chromosomes is called as polyploidy condition. In the genetic cause, the DNA sequence can also get changed. The change in the DNA, like detection of altered fragment size by using restriction enzymes. There could be a change in protein, loss or gain in protein band, or alteration in the level of specific protein could also happen. And methylation of DNA could also occur, and generally methylation inactivates the transcription process. So such kinds of sequence changes can also happen in the DNA molecule. Then third cause is biochemical cause, in where the biochemical functionality gets altered due to certain metabolic changes. For example, lack of photosynthetic ability due to alteration in the carbon metabolism. So generally normal plants, they synthesize their own food, but tissue culture plants, they could not make their own food. So they are generally dependent on the media to absorb the nutrition. So their carbon metabolism gets changed, and that's why this leads to the loss of photosynthetic ability, as they no longer dependent on the photosynthesis to obtain the food. The food is provided in a ready-made form within the media. Then biosynthesis of starch via carotenoid pathway. Sometimes in tissue culture plants, they synthesize the starch using carotenoid pathway, as this is also a kind of biochemical change that occurs in the plants. There is alteration in their nitrogen metabolism and also antibiotic resistance, which is being created within the tissue culture plants, as we add antibiotic within the media. So all these are the biochemical causes. Then there is a in vitro selection process to obtain the disease resistant plant. For example, this is an example. Development of protoplast or cell or tissue culture technique. First step is develop the kind of culture which you wanted to raise, or you wanted to establish. Then within this culture, the explant susceptibility to against different materials, like selection factors can be checked. For example, if you wanted to raise a plant which is tolerant to salt, you can add the salt within the media. Okay, so salt becomes the selection factor. If you wanted to raise the temperature tolerant plants, then you can increase the temperature. Like, this is the selection factor for raising that kind of plant. So for example, you want to create a herbicide resistant plant, then you will add the herbicide concentration in minimal quantity within the media, which cannot be lethal for your plant, but the plant can survive within that concentration of salt or herbicide or particular pathogen. So all these are the selection factors. Then this is done purposefully for induction of mutations within your plants. Now, selection of tolerant materials against selection factor. Whenever you add these physical parameters, you lessen down or you increase the concentration of these parameters within the culturing conditions. Generally, that leads to variation creation within the plants. That means the mutations will occur within the tissue culture plants, and the plants will acclimatize to these conditions, creating certain DNA changes within their genome. So they will adapt to these conditions. Few of the plants will die, but few of the plants will survive. And these plants are further regenerated into plants, whole plant, and this is how we can create the disease tolerant plants. For example, if you want to obtain a disease resistant plants, the selection factor would be pathogen, toxin, or the entire pathogen in low concentration. A virus or bacteria in low concentration within the media, within the culture, so that your plant will start acclimatizing to these conditions and they will develop certain changes within their DNA, which could lead to the development of disease tolerant plants at the end. In vitro selection for fungal disease resistance. For example, here the fungal culture in broth, the fungus which causes the plant disease has been grown in a broth. It is filtered, and then the filtrate is methanol precipitated. Toxin fractionation is done by column chromatography. The toxin is being isolated from the fungal pathogen. Now this toxin is added within the media in the culture, and your plant is allowed to grow in the varied concentrations of this toxin. So few plants will die, few plants will acclimatize to this concentration of toxin, and they will continue to grow. They will survive. They will proliferate in the growth media, and then these plants were selected further and they will be acclimatized and hardened on the field, and they will be checked for their resistance to this fungal pathogen. Understood? This is the process of obtaining certain kinds of soma clonal variants which are effective against certain pathogens, maybe a bacteria or fungal or viral pathogen. Now, this flow chart depicts the steps for induction and selection of soma clonal variations within the plants. So this is the central pathway, which is your normal pathway, in which you don't create the variations within the plants purposefully. They will happen or they will generate within the culture process naturally, spontaneous kind of soma clonal variations, where we start with generally with the donor plant. We collect the explant. We go for in vitro culturing by various kinds of culture. Generally, the callus culture is the best suited. Then this callus culture generally regenerates the plant, regenerates, and then few plants will show few phenotypic variations. We'll check their variations, multiply them, and we'll test them on field. So this is a natural pathway where generally most of the soma clonal variations will occur through callus culturing, because in callus the cells, single cells or group of cells are there, and cells are very they are very ready, they readily gets mutated. That's why there is higher chance in the callus culture. The plants which were raised from callus culture, they have the highest percentage of soma clonal variations. Now, purposefully we can go for inducing the mutations by two ways, either by going for a cell suspension culture or by entire callus culture. In both cultures, we treat the callus or suspension with certain selection pressures. Uh, these selection pressures could be biotic or abiotic stresses. Like biotic means any live form of bacteria, virus or fungal pathogen or its toxin can be used to grow particular tolerant variety, plant variety. In abiotic stresses, we generally go for creating salt tolerant, temperature tolerant, humidity tolerant or herbicide tolerant kinds of plants, like physical condition tolerant plants, abiotic stress tolerant plants. So we generally add these factors within the culture conditions and we allow the plants to grow in these challenging conditions. Whatever survived plants will be there, survived cells will be there, they will lead to generation of tolerant plants, disease tolerant or salt tolerant, physical condition tolerant plants, and finally we test them on a field. So in both cases the same thing happens. Only difference is here we go for cell suspension culture and in this case we go for callus. So final outcome would be somaclonal plants which were multiplied and field tested. Now how you go for isolation of somaclonal variants? How you isolate it from a big population? So there are two methodologies again, without in vitro selection where you don't apply any kind of selection pressure, and with in vitro selection where you apply a particular kind of selection pressure, biotic or abiotic pressure, purposefully or deliberately. So in first method, that is unorganized callus or suspension cells, they are grown in culture for various period or medium that contains no selective agent and are induced to differentiate whole plants. The regenerated plants are ultimately transferred to the field and screened for variation. So in this methodology, what happens, you don't generally apply any kind of selective agent within the media or in a culture conditions, but still few variations, few variated plants will develop. Okay. We don't apply any selection pressure, but still as you are regenerating the plants from callus and cells, I told you like these cells or callus, they are in very primitive stage of development. That's why they adopt or they get the mutations very easily. That's why these kinds of variations will occur in the plants which were regenerated from originally from callus or suspension cells. But here we don't apply any kind of selective agent or selection pressure. While with in vitro selection procedure, we apply the pressure. In this method, variant cells which are derived from callus or suspension cell culture, they are screened from cultures by their ability to survive in the presence of a substance in a medium that may be toxic or under conditions of environmental stress or physiological stress. That means we allow the plants to grow under selection pressure. That selection pressure could be biotic, live bacteria, virus or fungal toxin or the organisms themselves, or they could be a abiotic kind physiological conditions like temperature, higher temperature, lower temperature, high salt concentration, low salt concentration, high herbicide concentration, low herbicide concentration, or certain plant growth regulators. For example, amino acid analogs and amino acid resistance, disease resistance, herbicide resistance, environmental stress tolerance, auxotrophic lines, or antibiotic resistance. These kinds of characteristics can be inserted or induced within the plant cells by exposing these cells or cultures to those kinds of selection pressures. So this is called as with in vitro selection plant isolation of somaclonal variants. Now, isolation of somaclonal variants, various approaches are used for isolating the somaclonal variants, and generally they are grouped into two broad categories. First category is screening for the mutations or variations, and second thing is cell selection. So what is done in screening? So screening, it involves the observation of large number of cells or regenerated plants for the detection of variant individuals. This approach is only feasible technique for isolation of mutants for yield and yield related traits. So in this methodology, what we do generally, we observe for large number of cells or regenerated plants for detection of particular kind of phenotypic or genotypic variant within the population. And these variations are generally related to yield traits, like how much is the size of your grain, bunch size of the fluorescence, or the in the fruits, the size of fruit. So these kinds of yield traits are generally related in this kind of screening. So in general, R1 progeny, the progeny of regenerated R0 plants are scored for the identification of variant plants, and their R2 progeny lines are evaluated for confirmation. So for example, you have generated a R0 plant using soma-clonal approach. Then whether it has been transferred into its next generation, that is into R1 or not, is also verified physically by observing their phenotypic variations on the field, and their confirmation is done whenever you go for observing its next generation, that is R2 progeny. Understood? So by evaluating the R0, R1 and R2, you get confirmation that your soma-clonal variation, whatever you have induced mutation in your plants, they are permanent kind of one. Then the screening has been profitably and widely employed for the isolation of cell clones that produce higher quantities of certain biochemicals. For example, few plants, as I have told you in the suspension culture, that few plants have the ability to secrete certain biochemicals which are called as secondary metabolites. So in suspension culture, we can create the clones which have the higher ability of secretion of these certain biochemicals than their natural counterparts. Okay, so we can also go for screening of such kinds of mutants which have the higher ability to secrete the secondary metabolites or certain biochemicals. Then computer-based automated cell sorting devices are also being used to screen as many as 1000 to 2000 cells per second, from which desirable variant cells were automatically separated. Nowadays, there are fluorescent activated cell sorting systems are there, which can detect the changes in the chromosome of the cells, and they can separate the mutant and normal cells from one another. Then analysis of phenotypic characters is also the methodology used to select the soma-clonal variants. So phenotypic variants arise at the time of regenerant throughout the culture. Such variants are ascertained with the field at the time of their consecutive growth and development. This quantitative and qualitative phenotypical characters like leaf size of the plant, then plant height, flowering date of plant, then yield, then seed fertility, maturity date, flower morphology. All these traits are used as a parameters to arrange the variants. So soma-clonal variations can be observed by observing the leaf size, plant height, flowering date, seed fertility, maturity date, flower morphology, or yield, other yield related traits can be also observed within such kinds of variants, and these variants are compared totally with the parental plant in all attainable characters. So the comparison is generally done with the donor or mother plant, and how they are differing from mother plant in their respective traits. Then second methodology of selecting the soma-clonal variation or isolating the soma-clonal variation is the cell selection. You can go for selecting the variant cells at the very initial phase of their regeneration. In the cell selection approach, a suitable selection pressure is applied which permits the preferential survival or growth of variants cell only. Some examples of cell selection are selection of cells resistant to toxins, herbicides, or high salt concentration. This is the procedure of with in vitro selection kind of soma-clonal variation selection. There would be a positive selection when selection pressure allows only the mutant cells to survive or divide. This will be called as a positive selection. Whenever you apply these toxins, herbicides, or high salts along with the culture conditions. Only the plants which can bear this selection pressure, they will only survive and divide, and only they can grow and get converted into final plantlets. So this kind of pressure is called as positive selection. In the negative selection, what happens? The wild type of cells divide normally and therefore are killed by counter selecting agent. For example, in this case 5-BUDR or arsenate. So in this case, what we do, we kill the wild type non-mutated cells by treating them with certain lethal agents like 5-BUDR or arsenate. But in your mutant cells, there would be certain mechanism will be there to resist or to acclimatize to these conditions, or to bear the lethal pressure applied by 5-BUDR or arsenate. That's why only mutant cells will survive, but the wild cells will get killed at the same time. So this is called as negative selection of cells. Now the positive selection approach may further subdivided into 4 categories like direct selection, rescue method, stepwise selection and double selection. In direct selection, what happens? The cells resistant to the selection pressure survive and divide to form the colonies. The wild type cells are killed by the selection agent. So this is the most common selection method used for the isolation of cells resistant to toxins produced by pathogens, herbicide, elevated soil concentration, antibiotic or amino acid analogs. So here we allow the plants which survive to the selection pressure, we kill the wild type of cells. Then in rescue selection, the wild type of cells are killed by the selection agent while the variant cells remain alive but do not divide due to unfavorable environment. So what happens here? We apply a particular kind of chemical within the culture conditions which will kill the wild type of cells, but that selection pressure will not allow the other cells to grow. So there would be unfavorable conditions for mutant cells also. Now this selection agent is then removed to recover the variant cells. These variant cells are then further transferred onto new media where they would recover, and they will use to recover the low temperature and aluminum resistant variant cells. Generally this kind of approach is used to produce the low temperature variants and aluminum resistant variant cells. In stepwise selection, selection pressure, that is salt concentration, may be gradually increased from a relatively very low level to a cytotoxic level. For example, in a gradual manner, you can increase the salt concentration from 0 milligrams to a 5 gram quantity, for example, where 5 gram is a lethal quantity. When you add 5 gram, your plant dies. But you add in between concentration, your plant still survives. Now, the resistant clones isolated at each stage are subjected to higher selection pressure. For example, here we apply 1, here we apply 2 milligram, 3 milligram, 4 milligram. Like what at the first stage, you have 10 plants. Out of 10, when you increase the salt concentration up to 1 milligram, only 9 will survive. When you increase it by 2, only 8 will survive. When you increase it by 3, only 7 will survive. When you increase it by 4, only 6 will survive. So at every stage of selection, the cells or the plants are subjected to higher selection pressure. Such selection approach is called as stepwise selection. It may often favor the gene amplification, which is unstable, or mutations in the organelle DNA, cytoplasmic DNA. So at every selection pressure, what happens? There would be amplification of genes which are creating the resistance characteristic within the plant cells. Then in the double selection, what we do, it may be feasible to select the survival and growth on one hand and some other feature reflecting resistance to the selection pressure on the other hand. For example, double selection is provided by selection for resistance to the antibiotic streptomycin, which inhibits the chlorophyll development in the cultured cells. The selection was based on the survival and colony formation in the presence of streptomycin, one feature as well as the development of green color in these colonies, which is a second feature. Only green colonies will be selected. This approach have been used for the selection of cells resistant to the herbicide amitrol 2,4-D, tobacco mosaic virus and aluminum. In this selection methodology, we go for two selection pressure. One selection pressure is the antibiotic resistance to streptomycin, and another quality or parameter is ability to synthesize the chlorophyll pigments. So in this kind of selection, we go for selecting the plants based on two different characteristics. One is antibiotic resistance and second is ability to develop the chlorophyll. If the colonies are white, we will not select those colonies because they could not able to develop the chlorophyll pigments. We will select the colonies which are green in color, which is a second feature. That means they are the survived colonies and they retain their ability to synthesize the chlorophyll. So we will select the cells which have both characteristics. They have the antibiotic resistance also and ability to synthesize the chlorophyll pigment also. So we select the cells based on two characteristics. That's why the methodology is known as double selection. Now, how we detect the soma clonal variants? So generally by analyzing their morphological characters like qualitative and quantitative characters. Qualitative are generally phenotypic characteristics which can be seen on the plant body, like plant height, maturity date, flowering date, leaf size. While qualitative characters are the yields of flower, seeds, wax content in different plant parts. Now we also detect the variants by cytological cell studies, like the cell studies of root tip, leaf tip with Fulgin and acetocarmine stains, which provides the number and morphology of chromosomes present within the cell. We also detect the variants by DNA content of the cells, like cytophotometry detection of Fulgin stained nuclei can be also used to measure the content of DNA within the cells. This is the example of phenotypic variation observed in the seedlings of sugarcane. In the plant A within a plant figure A, the phenotypically normal green seedlings are there, but in the B image there are the seedlings which are grown from calli, which are having the abnormal leaves and they have the low ability to develop the chlorophyll. That's why a little bit pale green in color. So here the example of strawberry fruit is given, like how the strawberry fruit variants are there. Like you can easily observe the size of the fruits and also the floret, number of florets developed to main branch. Then this is also the comparison of phenotypic changes in 3 selected soma clonal variants with the control. Flower cluster variants, like how many clusters develop to a particular branch, and then fruit shape variants, like the shape of fruit. Then also the here are some soma clonal variants where the plant size variants are there and leaf shape variants are also there. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. You can see the plant size and also the leaf morphology. Then detection and isolation of soma clonal variants based on the gel electrophoresis, like change in the concentration of enzyme, proteins, pigments, alkaloids, amino acids can be detected by their electrophoretic pattern. Then also detection of disease resistant variants can be done by pathogen or a toxin responsible for disease resistance can be used as a selection pressure during the culture conditions. Detection of herbicide resistant variants where plants are regenerated by adding the herbicide into the cell culture conditions, and it can be used to develop the herbicide resistant plants. So here the phenotypic variation observed during the cultivation in the field, like A and B, sterile abnormal spike morphology is being seen in wheat plant. C is the morphologically abnormal plants with abnormal fertile spikes. Plants showing the variation in the height and number of tillers within the soma clonal variants. And finally, the detection and isolation of soma clonal variants, like detection of environmental stress tolerant plants could be possible using soma clonal variation, like the plants which are high salt tolerant, which are resistant to waterlogging and drought resistance. The selection of plants which are stress tolerance, temperature stress tolerance or mineral toxicity tolerant could be possible using somaclonal variation approach. Now, what are the advantages of somaclonal variations? They help in the crop improvement program to create or to regenerate the plants with novel characteristics. Then creation of additional genetic variation within the normal natural genetic component. Increased and improved production of secondary metabolites can be possible, and selection of plants resistant to various toxins, herbicides, high salt concentration, mineral toxicity, and disease resistance can be done for the crop improvement programs. Disadvantage is what? It requires clonal uniformity. Sometimes undesirable characteristics can be also get induced in the plants, which is not commercially feasible. And selection of variants is random and genetically unstable. It requires extensive and extended field trials. Not suitable for complex agronomic traits like yield and quality, and they may develop the pleiotropic effect within the plants. And in plant breeding, they have the somaclonal variations applications are very useful for introducing the genetic variations that could be of value to the plant breeders, like single gene mutations in a nuclear or organelle genome may give the best available variety in the in vitro that has a specific improved traits. Somaclonal variations could be used to uncover new variants retaining all the favorable characters along with an additional useful traits such as resistant to biotic or abiotic stress. And additionally, the variability of within the cell culture has played useful role in the synthesis of secondary metabolites on a commercial scale. So here is the some achievements with achievements in the generation of somaclonal variant plants. For example, crop in Brassica gentiana crop, Varuna plant variety have been developed from somaclonal variety of Pusa jaikisan has been developed from its parent variety of Varuna. And here the remark is 70.4% more yield is obtained as compared to its parent plant. Then Citronella java crop in the Citronella java bio 13 variety have been developed using somaclonal approach, which yields more oil and citronellol, and developed by SciMap Lucknow. In Geranium, Velvet Rose variety have been developed from Lemon Rose. It is a polyploid somaclone. Then in Lathyrus sativa, Ratan variety have been developed, which is having lower neurotoxin concentration as compared to the original or natural parents. Then in linseed flax, Andro variety have been developed from MacGregor, which is showing the salt tolerant characteristic. In sugarcane, Ono variety have been developed from a Pindar plant variety, and it has a resistance to Fiji disease. In sweet potato, Scarlet variety have been developed, which is having the more darker and more suitable skin color in the potatoes, sweet potatoes. In tomato, the altered color, taste and texture characteristics have been induced. In Cynodon dactylon, Brazos R3 variety have been developed, which has increased resistance to fall armyworm.